So let's get started. Let's talk about the rest periods. How much time should you be taking a rest? As you saw in the video right now, there are some people that do believe that you should be resting long periods of time, because if you don't, you're not going to get enough rest to be able to recover enough for the subsequent sets. But there's also the thought that you should only rest somewhere between 60 to 90 seconds, others up to 2 minutes. And like this guy saying that you should be resting 3, 5, sometimes even more minutes of rest between each set. And what is the right amount? So, like I said, longer rest periods means that you're going to be more recovered for the following sets. In that case, if you're lifting really heavy weight, for example, on a leg press, on a squat or deadlift, your body is going to need more time to recover. In that case, resting 3 minutes or up to 5 minutes, sometimes even more, depending on what your goal is, you're going to need that much rest. Also, if you look at the powerlifters from, for example, World's Strongest Man competitions, some of those guys rest up to 15 minutes, some of them even more. That's just because they're deadlifting like 700 or 800 pounds during their training. When they go to competition, they're only doing the one lift, and that's where they do the 1,000-pound deadlifts or 1,000-pound squats. They don't usually go that heavy when they're in training. Because otherwise they're putting themselves at risk during their training workouts, and you don't want to put yourself at a risk of injury when you're at training, because if you get injured while training, you're not going to be able to go on stage and you're not going to be able to get paid. Shorter rests do have their advantages. For example, they increase metabolite accumulation. So that burning sensation that you feel during each repetition, keeping that burning sensation as you're going on is going to help contribute to more hypertrophy. So in other words, that's going to help you build more muscle. Medium length periods, that's somewhere between 60 to 90 seconds, they maintain the greater metabolite accumulation and elevate performance in the following sets. So you're still going to be able to have the metabolite accumulation for that contributes to muscle size growth, the muscle hypertrophy, but you're also going to be more rested and more recovered for the following sets. Again, if you're doing a really heavy set, like a really heavy leg press, hack squat, barbell squat, any of those exercises where you're carrying 400, 500, or doing somewhere that is leaving you ridiculously tired, you're probably going to require more rest regardless. So doing 60 to 90 second rest for those type of exercises, I would actually advise against, just for the sake of safety. You don't want to be injuring yourself during training. There's no benefit to that, and you're only going to be hurting your goals. So what I really mean to say is that there is no one set range of rest that you should be hitting, because it really depends on what it is that you're trying to get and what your goals are. So if you're trying to gain just straight up strength or power, you're going to need more rest, because you're trying to get the absolute best performance for each set. If you're looking for hypertrophy, you're really just looking for the muscle size to grow as much as possible. You're not trying to gain as much strength as you would, even though I do understand that lifting heavier weight can contribute to more hypertrophy growth. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be squatting. Anyone that's squatting 1,000 pounds looks like they squat 1,000 pounds. I mean, if you look at some of the guys that have squatted 1,000 pounds, they look nothing like the Phil Heath or Arnold Schwarzenegger types. In fact, you might see them and you'll probably think that that's just fat dude. I guess he kind of looks strong, but you wouldn't expect what you would think in your mind someone that squats 1,000 pounds would look like. Also, you got to look at the type of exercise you're doing. Is it a multi-joint exercise or is it a single joint exercise? A single joint exercise being something like a leg extension or a leg curl, barbell, arm curls, whether barbell or dumbbells. Those you don't need as much rest because one, the technique isn't all that important. I mean, with an arm curl, you're really just trying to target the biceps. If you feel that you're going to be jerking way too much as you're getting too tired, all you got to do really is do a preacher curl, and then you could totally isolate the biceps, so you're not going to you won't be sucked into doing the cheat reps while you're doing that. Shorter rest periods are best when you're doing lighter weights or high repetitions, or the combination of both. So a lot of people think that you shouldn't be doing high repetition stuff because that's really just endurance. So yes, it does contribute to muscle endurance, but there is still muscle hypertrophy that's going on, and you're still going to gain strength regardless. What I mean is, if you do dedicate 1 month where you're doing high repetitions, anywhere from like 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, or 25 to 30 repetitions, you're still going to be gaining size in your muscles. It's just not the type 2 muscle fibers as much as it is the type 1 muscle fibers. So in case you didn't know, the type 1 muscle fibers are the ones that are more aligned with endurance. So a lot of times people think anyone that is carrying a lot of type 1 muscle, they're usually more skinny and scrawny. They look like marathon runners, or the 3K runners that you see at the Olympics usually are small in frame. That's not exactly true. You still can grow that type of muscle, and if you're trying to gain more muscle size in general, committing 1 month during each training year, or a couple months during each training year, to high repetition short rests can help build total muscle mass that will help you look bigger and stronger as you're going along with your training than if you only did the standard 8 to 12 repetitions, or 4 to 6, 4 to 8 repetitions. Finally, when you're doing a multi-joint exercise, you're going to need more rest because there are more muscle regions that are being activated at the same time. That's why you need to make sure that, for safety's sake, you're giving yourself enough time to be 100% for the following set. If you don't, you're probably going to abandon technique, and in the long run that could contribute to injuries. So for example, if you're trying to use deadlifts during a workout, going to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 repetitions, and it's somewhat heavy weight, and you're not giving yourself enough time to rest, you're not going to be fully recovered. And that's where you start to see things like the back starting to move around during the following sets that could lead to a lower back injury. Back to how much rest should you be taking between each set. Again, it depends. Is it a single joint or multi-joint exercise? Or is it a high repetition exercise? Is it a low repetition exercise? Are you lifting heavy weights? Or is it somewhere that's in the moderate range? Heavyweight stuff, you're going to need more rest. Multi-joint stuff, you're going to need more rest. Single joint, lighter weight stuff, you don't really need a whole lot of rest, but you just want to feel like you can be fully recovered where you're not putting yourself at risk of an injury. Now, if you recall Louie Simmons, the late founder of Westside Barbell, he would actually promote a lot for his athletes to do cardio because this would contribute to shorter recovery periods. Obviously, those guys weren't going out running miles and miles a day. A lot of it was just hopping on the bike or walking. So that could help reduce the amount of recovery that you need.